Welcome to Proust My Startup, the podcast that offers you a glimpse at the personalities of the people that make the local startup ecosystem in Malaysia. I'm Vanessa Muledus, aka Brand Shifu with an H on Instagram, the founder of North Branding Consulting Boutique Agency. I'm a brand strategist, 24/7 immersed by the sides of entrepreneurs, startups, and SME founders. As a brand consultant, a mentor, but also an entrepreneur program facilitator, an investment jury, and a business angel. In Proust My Startup, I want to really discover who are the people that make our local startup ecosystem. Because I'm a brand strategist, I want to understand how their personal brand might influence or shape the corporate brand of their organization. Today's episode is recorded from CloudMile's Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Startups thrive on innovation, and CloudMile is here to fuel that journey. As a leading AI and cloud technology company in Asia, they help businesses drive digital transformation and growth, leveraging machine learning, big data, and cloud solutions. With a team made up of certified technical experts and a strong network of technology partners, including being one of just 40 Google Cloud Managed Services providers globally, CloudMile has supported more than 1,200 companies through consulting, technical, and managed services. I've seen it firsthand with my own mentees, tech startup founders. The Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, now offers startups a collaborative space to explore generative AI, data management, security, and more, and advance their digital competitiveness with cloud and AI adoption. So if, like them, you want to experience it yourself, visit today my.cloud. So welcome, Razlan, to Proust My Startup.
Thank you so much.
Really, really glad to have you over.
Absolutely. Likewise.
Yeah, thank you. It's been about 2 years, I think. I haven't seen Razlan.
Yeah, exactly. It has been kind of many
Ages.
years, honestly.
Ages. We met actually at La French Tech Malaysia at the time where I was one of the board members and I was organizing some events. If I remember well, it was at our French ambassador's villa.
Yeah,
right?
it was actually there.
It was that, yes?
It was
Good
there.
memory for once. So I'm really glad because this guy here, Razlan, is the co-founder and CEO and CTO of a space tech, all Malaysian space tech, Aphelia.
Right.
It's not a newborn because now it's been a few years in, but a good challenger. And the story behind Razlan is very interesting because Razlan and Matt, the co-founder, they have decided to go into a space right after the studies that they didn't have studied.
Yep.
So space tech one day, out of nowhere somehow, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. Yeah. But they decided to take on the challenge and push, space in Malaysia, which I found the most extraordinary story ever. It takes some courage, I would think. So this is the personality we're going to explore. And we will start with one question. Have you ever heard of the Proust questionnaire?
No, I have not actually. This is so interesting to start the conversation with.
Very much. And actually, no one of my guests has ever heard because it's a French thing. Maybe a European, but it's coming from France. So Proust is the name of a philosopher and writer, Marcel Proust, last name Proust, that used to live in the late 19th, early 20th century. Okay, he was a philosopher, a writer, an intellectual. And back then, he popularized a game for indoor times amongst the intellectual and aristocratic circles that was based on questions that he thought would reveal the true nature of an individual. All right?
I see where this is.
So I had fast forward to today, transpose somehow that very same 100 years old something questionnaires to today and to the tech startup ecosystem, right? Yeah. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to basically take the very same questionnaire, 100 plus years, but in a modern time.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Wow. So we're going to travel back to the history.
Somehow. And you see some questions so most of them are universal. And some questions sometimes feel like something we wouldn't ask today or we wouldn't reflect on it. But back then, I believe that kind of people, they didn't really work. And that was that time where they were really reflecting on themselves. They loved this kind of thinking. Today, we don't have the time to do it anymore. So it's kind of taking us off guard to ask these kind of questions. But nothing offending, nothing to put you not well at ease. Personal, but respectful.
Yeah.
Ready?
Honestly, this is so good because when you mentioned about the questions all the way from more than 100 years ago, I bet that we will see that all the questions are actually timeless.
Yes,
Right.
correct. So timeless. One or two, I need to put that into today's context where we can't be so blunt about our answers because, well, it's online
Yeah.
and public. Before was closed circles. But honestly, yeah, it's timeless, universal questions and things that we really don't ask ourselves anymore,
Yeah.
which maybe is too bad. So let's see if that reveals your true nature.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And in fact, I would add even more like spices to this kind of like the narrative of the philosophy. I do think that in the startup ecosystem, like philosophy should be one of the, let's say, one of the aspects that we should explore more.
True.
Because it's like it or not, philosophy forms the belief, the core belief that every
Correct.
founders have, whether conscious or unconsciously, because these philosophies forms our core belief that eventually forms our decision making in the startup, especially in terms of our vision as well. So, like at least if we know what is our philosophy in a way, that will create like so much of clarity to what we want to do at the
True.
startup.
And being a safeguard as well to innovation, I feel, which is a bit
Exactly.
lacking today, in
Yeah.
my opinion, worldwide. Yes?
Yeah.
So you're super ready, I think, for these questions. You will see. Shall we go?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. So, question number one. What is your idea of perfect happiness? See the level?
Yes. And I believe you asked the right person. Um, I genuinely believe that although we all say happiness, but really what we are seeking, everyone in the whole world right now, what we are seeking is actually not really happiness. What we are seeking is actually contentment. Because happiness is just, it's not just about happiness is a state, but rather happiness is just, it's just a situation. It is just a symptom, I would say. What we are really after is actually not happiness, it is contentment. Because if we have contentment, we tend to be much more grateful. And also, at least, we are able to, I would say, much more regulated in terms of our reaction, like psychologically speaking. We are much more, be able to be regulated emotionally and also in terms of our reaction, where if everything goes sideways, which is a common thing for a startup, like
True.
in a week we plan so much things, and then in the next day everything went sideways. Oh, this is not right. And like imagine that kind of situation. How does the role of happiness play in that kind of situation where everything goes sideways? So I do I do agree that we are seeking some happiness, but really what we are seeking is actually contentment. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
First time I hear this take, so
Yeah.
very interesting take. Very interesting, but
Yeah.
I understand where you come from.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
So now, what is your greatest fear?
Bear with me. So, in all honesty, I used to fear that in retrospect, I think this should be the last question because it's kind of like we're building up the emotional depth. But really, uh, I would say one of the biggest fear is not really about regret. Of course, there's a narrative, especially among startup ecosystem, where you need to build your startup, otherwise you will be regret when you turn 60 years old or 80 years old. But really, uh, because of the contentment aspect, being really grateful, being really present in the present days, I guess I'm a bit less fear I'm a bit less fear.
Mm.
But red and it's a double-edged sword. So I'm less fear in terms of having no regrets, but rather I tend to be just accept whatever the past has been, not just in the past, like in the years ago, but also like in the previous actions, in the yesterdays of yesterdays.
Mm.
So yeah, at least that's my thought
Yeah,
process.
I understand.
Yeah.
So somehow you don't really
Mm,
have anything you fear
yeah.
because you're
And
trying your best every day and you're trying to be grateful for everything.
exactly.
I
And of
understand.
course, there is a reasoning why I say it should be the last question because there's another, I would say ground, there's another root to that fear part, which was, um, which was part of my own personal life, like back in few years ago. And it really kind of like got me not only clarified, but also really convicted in what I want to do in my life.
Mm.
Yeah, but of course, what I want to do in my life, not in just in the context of career. I career, yes. We are being ambitious in the context of career, but life is so much rich, more rich than just purely career.
True.
Yeah.
True. All right.
All right.
Nice response.
Yeah.
Now, what is the trait you most deplore in yourself? So the trait you really don't like in yourself.
Oh, sorry. Could you repeat?
What is the trait of character
Mm-hmm.
you most deplore in yourself, which is really something you don't like in yourself?
Deplore as in like remove it.
I'm really not happy with that trait of character of mine.
That is good. Um, there's a vulnerability aspect of the question because it opens up the weakness, yeah, in us, and also
Yes.
being really transparent about that, right?
True.
So I would say, uh, I have to go to therapy.
A therapeutic podcast here. Some guests have said so. They have said, I've
Ah.
never reflected on those questions and spending an hour on it. That started, the journey. Like there's a seed now in my head. So I felt in therapy actually. So
Yeah, this is good.
it's
This is
interesting. So
good.
you answer as you feel here.
Yeah. So, hmm. So this specific, I would say, flaws, but of course, just like Sami Sinek says, every flaws, every weaknesses is only say viewed in a negative way, given the context,
Mhm.
right? So at least in my case, which was true in the past years, which also is a true today. Of course, I wish I can say it is not true, but I would say it is true. And that is I tend to be really idealist. Of course, we have some, let's say, oh, what is the vision? What is the direction? This is a path. This is the plan we should do. But sometimes I tend to be, say, too ideal that this is the right thing to do. And here's the trick, like for the reflection that I did. So the reason why it is so hard to have an alternative thought process as opposed to being really ideal, and this is the path, this is the way to go, is because those paths, those facts, is actually true.
Mm.
Because the fact that it is true is so hard for us to at least be flexible, at least be open-minded. So of course, um, at least personally, the way I kind of like try to find an alternative thought process, how to get away from that, maybe it's not tunnel vision, let's say that tunnel
Yeah.
of thought process,
Yeah.
is knowing that there are other solutions that works as well.
Understand. So you have turned your that, let's say, trait of yours that you don't really like into somehow a good knowledge and something more positive.
Exactly.
I understand.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly.
All right. So now, same question, but for others. What is the trait you most deplore in others? You really don't like in others.
I'll go really specific. In the context of Malaysia, having coming back from Luxembourg a few months ago, I think almost 2 months ago already. So I would say in the context of Malaysia, uh, at least there are two things. Number one is that I would say we have too low of self-esteem.
Hmm.
Too low of self-esteem, because in the end, we have the inferiority complex when it comes to when it comes to it can be about like in the context of like FDI, supporting the foreign company, non-Malaysian companies, helping the Malaysia's ecosystem have the trickle-down impact, creating more jobs, and then I'm not pointing to any stakeholders or
Yeah,
any
yeah.
parties because after all we are all humans.
Mhm.
We have weaknesses, we have blind spots, but really fundamentally we are all humans. And for the case of Malaysians, I would say we have too much of low self-esteem,
I understand.
when in fact we actually are capable. We have the bandwidth in order to um, I would say, let's say, in order to strive to be on the same standard, on the same path
Mhm.
as our friends.
Yeah.
Of course, that is like in a non-geopolitical way of saying
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but in a
It's more cultural here.
exactly,
Yeah. Emerging markets, emerging economy
exactly,
means maybe you feel like self-esteem is somehow linked to that.
exactly.
I understand.
Yeah, and in fact, of course, I'm guilty of that. But when we work with um, when we work with so many amazing people, not just Malaysians, but also non-Malaysians, I think uh, the whole experience for the past years, it has been very humbling, I would
Mm.
say. I mean, everyone, of course, there's no doubt, objectively speaking, uh, so many other people other than ourselves as an individual are so much smarter than us. But the true competent, smart people know that they are also, I would say, um, they are also not smart. Of course, we are not smart. We are not all geniuses in all. We are not polymath. We all have blind spot. We have weaknesses, and that's where having the humility to say that I don't know a certain thing, but at least I know this something, and I'm willing to learn. So that is humbling, I would say. Yeah, it really
I
helps.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So now, which living person do you most admire?
Okay, living person.
Can be famous or not.
Yeah.
Can be someone you know and we don't know.
Yeah. If living person, um, so, hmm, it's a bit tricky. I would say as of now, there are two people, who came into my mind. I would say one is my father.
Mhm.
Of course, it's not like a thought leader, a well-known person.
But he is in your own right
Yeah.
something you admire. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the reason why I admire is that despite all the weaknesses, despite all the shortcomings, and yet, when I look at my father's children, including me, we are still alive.
Mm.
Everything's, of course, not everything is well off, but still, I think one of the most underrated, maybe underappreciated jobs, job title is parents.
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that
My previous guest was mentioning that actually. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because
Interesting.
we can have, because I was listening to a podcast interview, Emily Chang with Sam Altman, the CEO
Yeah,
of
yeah,
OpenAI.
yeah.
So she asked him like, okay, congrats, you have a kid right now. How does that change you, especially in terms of commitment
Mm.
and not exactly in terms of ambition, but in terms of like the commitment. Are you working for the humanity or are
Yeah,
you working for your kids?
yeah.
So I mean, I can see. I mean, we all can see that he's also having some reflections. He's thinking about it. So the main thing is that one of the biggest responsibility of job. Obviously, I'm not a parent yet, but at least having the awareness and having the humility that parents is one of the most challenging job title. It's important to know that.
Mm.
Yeah,
Hence the admiration for your father. I
yeah,
understand. Very
exactly,
good. Very good.
exactly.
A bit lighter now, a
Okay.
question that is what is your greatest extravagance?
Okay, what does that mean? Extravagant.
Extravagance means somehow indulgence, something that we would not think of, when we know you, that actually you love to do, or,
Uh,
all that can be very normal, natural.
mm, is it meant to be like something like um, something we don't know about the person? Like,
Can be, for instance, some of the guests, they might have said singing. I love to sing, and that's my indulgence, my extravagance, something a bit different about me.
mm,
And some others said, I don't have much time because I'm a founder. So my extravagance is actually time. Spending time with my family is an extravagance.
mm,
That can be this kind of thing as well. Not unexpected necessarily,
mhm,
but we understand the price of it, the value of it.
mhm.
So it can be taken a bit differently, depending on the guest.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. All the more reason why building a startup is not just about hustle culture. It's not just about work, 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 work. We are humans after all.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, we have vision. We are really like idealists. Achieve this vision. Nothing else matter. We have to sacrifice. But in the end, I think I think that's the wisdom behind that question, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, I guess um, it is a really interesting question. I guess I have a few.
So name the top one.
Okay, the top one. So, one word, psychology. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because a bit disclaimer, I'm not an expert. I am not only I'm a work in progress, but I'm also healing, right? And the reason why this is so important is because um, not just like so-called being a leader, but really being human while being building a startup with different, many interesting yet amazing personalities. And sometimes after every reflections that at least in my own personal capacity that I did in order to grow as a person, um, what is the what is the fundamental truth in order to understand at the root level, to understand at the root level for all the situations that we are facing in a startup. And when we do deep reflections, it always all comes about understanding human, understanding our team, and the most important thing is to understand ourselves.
True.
And
Hence the
that's where
psychology as an extravagance, I understand.
exactly,
Right.
exactly,
Okay, interesting.
exactly.
So like reflecting on yourself and
Yeah,
digging down
yeah.
a bit more.
You,
Okay.
you guys should read psychology.
So that's a good advice though.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, what is your current state of mind?
Wow. Okay. Um, my current state of mind is chaos. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Like a startup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a startup.
Startup chaos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah. Because if we don't accept that it is a chaos, we are in denial. Hence, we cannot see the truth of the problem, and then we cannot solve. We cannot solve the problem because for us the problem doesn't exist,
Yeah. True.
and therefore we cannot make any progress.
True. There's no
Yeah.
betterment if everything is good. Like no
Exactly.
silent edge to resolve.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay. So, what do you consider the most overrated virtue? Yeah, it's not an easy one, this one. I know.
Okay. This I can understand the baggage behind this question because sometimes um not just startup founders, I mean any human beings, when tended human beings, we tend to be signal virtual. Um I would say the most overrated is I would say this is in the past, but it's along the narrative of we need to change the world. Something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But in reality, of course, going back to the psychology, so it starts with ourselves. So, but to be really specific, it's not about changing ourselves, but really about understanding, like at least for me, I want to understand who is Razlan.
Mm.
Not in a egoistic way, not in a career ambitious way. Like I need to understand myself. Oh, I'm destined to go to the space. I mean,
Understand?
not
Yes.
just like not everything is about career.
Yeah.
It's about like if we were to introduce ourselves without saying our job, without saying our position, how would you introduce yourself?
That is hard, right?
It is
In
so
modern
hard.
times, it's very hard.
It is so hard.
True. True,
Absolutely.
true. Okay, I
Absolutely.
understand what you're saying here.
Yeah.
Nice. It's very conceptual, this interview. I tell you,
Yeah.
gentlemen and ladies.
That's the right term conception.
Yeah. I
Exactly.
think you're elevating a bit the standards here. Not that the other gets were not,
Yeah.
but it's a different approach, I
Yeah.
can tell. All right, so the next one is on
Mm.
what occasion do you lie, as in cheating?
Cheating as in not being true to ourselves in a way, maybe.
Um, we actually, most of the guests and myself would have thought about lying to someone.
Mm-hmm.
So, which kind of situation would you do that? But it could be lying to yourself as well, actually.
Mm.
I think Razan has a 19th century mind, actually.
Yeah. I think now the extravaganza, that's
Yeah,
the term, right?
extravagance, yeah.
I love philosophy.
Yeah, I can tell. It's
Yeah.
like there's something very much like higher level than the usual thinking, I would say. But it's nice.
Thank you so much.
So, as you wish, this one, interpret it as you see it true for yourself. So, on what occasion do you lie?
Hmm. On what occasion I will be lying to myself? Um, it is this when things are so bad, but I don't see any path, any solution towards that. And because I don't see any path, like a potential solution, and therefore the current reality of the problems, I'm denying it. And
I
therefore
understand.
I lie to myself,
Yeah.
saying that it's like this solution path that we don't see. Of course, this is as far as I am concerned, this doesn't exist at all. But at a subconscious level, the reason why I'm in denial in this kind of situation is because I don't see a path
I understand.
out of that.
Yeah.
If I were to see a path out of that, of course, I wouldn't be lying to myself.
You'd be into action already.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly.
I would say it's like a safeguard mechanism. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
When you lack the path to go somewhere, whatever is the path, however hard it is, then it's hard because it's just stopping here.
Yeah.
So your mechanism is protecting myself and being in denial.
Exactly.
All
That's the
right.
right word, mechanism.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Interesting. All right.
What a nice way to catch
Yeah,
up with
right?
each other after 2 years.
Super deep catch up today. Especially we didn't have this kind of conversation because, well, who has this kind of
Exactly.
conversation really?
Exactly.
Not even with a friend, I think, or relative. You would have. This is not our times, I think.
Exactly.
We don't do that anymore.
Exactly.
So it's nice. Yeah. And I tell you, we catch up, and sometimes I discover my guests for first time ever, and this is the way we meet. So for me, it's like I've known them forever now,
Yeah.
because we have shared this kind of intimacy, let's say,
Yep.
around the questions. And for me, it's a true revelation about the personalities that I usually like because it's very deep and intense and interesting.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a good catch up.
Yeah.
All right, now question number 10. What do you most dislike about your appearance?
About my appearance, I would say I would love to say used to. I used to not like that. I look a little bit child rather than a bit more mature.
Okay.
Considering of course, this is going a little bit about the work part.
Sure.
Considering in the space industry, and also actually we are entering the defense industry. Actually, defense
Okay.
and security industry.
Okay.
So of course, there's a level of, like how visually the appearances of the
Yes,
startup
yes.
ecosystem, where we tend to be so
True.
casual.
True.
And in fact, I do remember during the event that you guys did at the French embassy, Matt and I, we saw this one guy. Imagine like in an embassy, everyone's suiting up, but this guy is like wearing a flip flop,
Yes,
wearing a
yes,
t-shirt.
yes.
There was this
True,
one guy.
true,
I still
true.
remember that.
True.
Yeah.
I
And
remember.
then, of course, I mean, at least for me, I have no judgment, nothing wrong about that. But at least for me personally, um, it's not only about having someone to take me serious, but really it's actually about um, how do we, of course, it's about first impression, but really it's about, like it or not, our projection reflects how people talk with us.
True. True.
And that is so important, right?
True.
Yeah.
And well, in actual fact, you're still young.
Yeah.
So what can you do? You know, and
Exactly.
you have Asian
Yeah.
genes.
That's
So
why
you
I
don't
keep
age
being
like us, you know. I understand. I remember a friend of mine, he had the glasses to appear a little bit more mature somehow.
Okay.
So everyone, I think at some point in age in our journey, we had to kind of twist a bit to
Exactly.
appear a bit more serious or being taken more seriously.
Exactly.
Even if we are capable and all, but yes, and this industry you are entering, yes, I see the
Yes.
gap here.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Now, which living person do you most despise? And so this is the kind of question that I think was relevant back then because close circle and they love to chat about, you know, the people in town.
Mm-hmm.
Us, of course, airing, we don't want to cite any names.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather turn this question into which kind of living person do you most despise? So
Okay.
really don't like.
One term. Savior, someone who has a savior complex.
Mm.
Someone who feels that I have the responsibility, I am the right person, I need to, um, of course, it's kind of like having a signal virtually, but really about someone who feels that some sense of a moral responsibility
Mhm.
that I need to do something, and therefore, indirectly, I am dictating what is right
I
for the
understand.
world. Of course, the underlying philosophy behind that, the reason why I despise that is that one word, worldview.
Mm.
Because some people have a worldview subconsciously, especially startup founders. They have a worldview that subconsciously they want to dictate the
Mhm.
entire world,
Mhm.
and this is the right way. This is how we want to do it.
I
But
understand.
in reality, we are all, especially for human species and also non-human species, we are all made. This is kind of like um, a phrase that I love to tell people is that we are same humans and yet we are different.
Mhm.
And the reason why we are different is so that we can celebrate each other.
True.
That is key thing.
That's a good way of thinking.
Yeah. And
That's true.
hence that's why in the context of like geopolitics, we are in an era of, it's not exactly, it should be globalization where we are all as a global citizen,
Mhm.
but I think it's more on like regionalization. So of course we have regions like the North America, the Europe, the ASEAN, the Asia, um, not in a separate way, but really each one of us, we celebrate our culture, lift up our culture, and we celebrate each other's culture.
True. True.
And that is what makes the world so colorful.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Very nice. So now, what is the quality you must like in a man, gender man?
Okay. Hmm. Hmm. If this question was back in the past 100 years, I believe it would be different
Yes.
than the current one.
So now it's yeah, exactly
Yeah.
so. So it's the interest of this questionnaire because I'm pretty sure there is a lot of difference. And actually,
Exactly.
this questionnaire, Marcel Proust took it for himself,
Mhm.
and it's available online. His answers. So if you're curious about this philosophy, especially he's a philosopher, you might want to search for it. It's he has the French answers, but also the English
Yeah.
because back then they would be multilingual.
Yeah.
So you can read it. It's very interesting.
Okay, I will keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
I will send it to you. I have it.
Okay.
So for
Okay.
you, which quality you must like in a man? So you are from this time.
It's the same answer, but different interpretation. At a surface level, it's actually about removing our ego. Um, um, of course, there's many layers to be unearthed from that ego because sometimes for men, uh, we have ego. That ego comes from our insecurity. especially being a man. Um, but a different interpretation is that what I would love to see more, not only in men, but also in ourselves, is that have a sense of direction. It's not about direction. I want to go to the moon. I want to go. No, it's about having a sense of direction. Because without direction, uh, then without a sense, at least without a sense of direction, how do like what is my guide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if I have no guide, then how do I know what is the right thing to
True.
do?
True.
How do I even know how to think?
True.
And then and we can see like having no sense of direction, not in a very judgmental way, having no sense of direction. That's kind of like that is the step one to go down spiral, the path of depression,
True. True.
which
So
is
the quality is about finding this direction for yourself as a personality, as a person, right?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And so, what is the quality you must like in a woman? Is
Yeah,
it different?
yeah.
Yeah.
So for woman, I would say it's also the same, a sense of direction. But at the same time, uh, hmm, I'm trying to avoid to be politically correct. Um, but in reality, we are all humans. I have my own limitation as well. But the point here is that I would say, um, for equality for women in the context of career, especially in the career, at least that's my exposure. I would say, do not do not be afraid to be. I would say maybe it sounds sexist, but I don't think it is, and that's why I want to dismiss that right away. I would say do not be afraid to be feminist, to be more to be more feminine in the context of working environment, because I
Understand.
do see
Being
that some
yourself, your personality.
exactly because like I understand in the context of business, because let's say men don't take seriously for women, because women, of course, there are stereotype. Women is not being taken serious. Women are not being cannot be serious. Um, but really, the one who are in losses is not the woman. The one who are in the losses is the men who have the stereotypes,
True.
especially unfounded stereotypes. That means those men, they have their own incompetency, they have their own biases,
Yeah.
which I kind of feel sorry as well. There must be something happening in their family life where the man doesn't feel like a man. So hence that's why I would say two layers. One, women shouldn't be afraid to be more feminine, and the uh, empowering I would say answer behind that is that there are so many unexplored qualities of a woman in the working environment. Hence, it's an emerging, I would say, emerging topic. I would say it's an
True.
emerging aspect.
True.
Yeah,
I understand your answer here. Yeah.
yeah,
Don't be afraid to bring the feminine side, the female side of life to
exactly,
the workplace and to anything around us.
exactly.
Very good.
Hmm.
All right. Now, which words or phrases do you most overuse? Are you aware of something?
Mm. The first word came to my mind. It's a one-letter word.
Mm-hmm.
I.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So of course, I'm trying to be conscious to not keep saying I, so that subconsciously I don't be at least too selfish. But of course, I need to balance. Uh, it's like on the other end of the spectrum, I don't want to be too selfish. That's why I want to let's say I.
Yeah.
But on the end of the spectrum is that I need to take care of myself, and therefore I need to say I, so that I can take care of myself, not in a dictatorship way, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I. Uh, Second word, I would say it's a word, it's
Yeah.
a phrase. Mm, it's a double-edged sword. I would say it is actually I really appreciate that. Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
yeah,
word.
yeah.
Because it's like, again, it's a spectrum thing, it's a balancing thing. But at least for me, when I kept saying, I appreciate that, I do genuinely appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But at the same time, I have something to offer as well. So it's not just about you, there's something about me as
yeah,
well
yeah.
in the conversation. Yeah.
Interesting. I appreciate that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I see that. All
This
right.
is so amazing questions.
And it's not even the halfway.
Yeah.
So now, number 15.
Hmm.
What or who is the greatest love of your life?
Uh, can we skip?
Ah, we can. If you feel so,
Yeah.
we skip.
I would
Okay.
say greatest love. I would say greatest love of my life.
So it's what or who?
Mm, okay, what or who? I would say both, just quickly. For who? I have to say definitely. No, I have like, oh, I need
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
this is the one that you have in your mind.
exactly. I have to say it's honestly it's my parents.
Mm.
Because the reason why the wisdom behind that is that of course there are things that kind of like shatters the love. Of course, definitely. That's why that's where the value of therapy comes in. So to all the startup founders, I recommend you guys to go to therapy. Not physiotherapy, not other therapy. Yeah.
This one actually starts to come into the startup ecosystem, the physiotherapy, as in well-being, physical well-being. Psychological, a little bit less. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know
Yeah, yeah. In
that.
my groups of entrepreneurs, I must say, we talk a lot about well-being,
Mm-hmm.
physical, mental. So the physical, they start to address it,
Mm-hmm.
going more to workout and things
Yep.
like this. The psychological, they are reflecting on it,
Mm.
but doesn't mean they have solutions for it or ways to cope with. But they
Mm.
start to acknowledge it, which is a first start.
That
They
is
are not
great.
ashamed of sharing,
Okay, that is
which I feel is a
great.
big, big stride.
Exactly. And that credits to the people who made a safe environment. I think
Yes,
that is a key thing.
yes, yes. Correct, correct.
Mm, okay.
So
Right.
interesting, yeah.
Okay, interesting, super interesting.
So what do you think
Yeah.
for you? What or who is the greatest love of yourself, of your life, yourself?
Mm, I would say my parents, of course. The wisdom behind that is we all don't know love until we have kids.
Mm.
And I love comedies. So there is a stand-up comedian who say, if I have a son, I would do anything to protect my son. But if I have a daughter, I would destroy the world to save my daughter.
True, true,
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
I see why he said that. Yes, yes, yes. I
yeah,
have both. So, but
yeah.
for me, being a woman, I would do anything for the both
The
genders.
both. See,
There's no difference. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that is the the reason behind what you say is the reason why I say the biggest love is from my
Sure,
parents.
sure.
Yeah, because I think that's the interesting part about the parents part. Yeah,
True. That's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Okay, that's a nice
yeah.
answer. So now, when and where were you happiest?
When I have realizations.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I have realizations after, it's not just about being down, but it's actually being in a what seemed to be a trap that have no outweigh in terms of course it is about still of course about psychology, but to be in a situation where this is a dead end, and I don't know how to, it's not just about how to solve something, but it's actually kind of like rooted as a person, like I don't know what is my limitations here that got me into here.
Mm.
And so upon reflection and having that realizations, of course, it's kind of like a dopamine thing as well. Like
Understand? Yes,
it's like,
yes, yes.
yes, I
You
have
you even
something.
feel it in your head, right? That something is
Exactly.
clicking, right? Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
It does that to me sometimes.
Yeah,
I feel
exactly.
physically, you feel like something is happening in my head. Now it's like the blur is out, yes?
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, yeah. Now you're saying it. I
Yeah.
remember this feeling here, and
Yeah.
that doesn't happen every often. I would think so often. So
Exactly.
okay,
Exactly.
nice. So now, which talent would you like to have? Most like to have something you
Hmm.
don't have, obviously, yet.
The fun side of it, I would say I kind of wish I can be a stand-up comedian as well.
And you know, there's a lot of startup founders that came to the mic
Okay.
that are the answers were exactly not stand-up comedian, but in the creative side of things,
Ah,
singer, a lot of singers. So now comedian. That's
okay.
interesting. I don't know if there's a pattern or something, but
Mm,
interesting. Okay, stand-up comedian.
yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. You know,
I
some
mean,
founders have gone into the wished talent. They have
ah,
trialed.
okay. Well, honestly, actually, fun fact about me. I was a guitarist. I do
Oh,
play electric guitar.
okay.
Yeah, but then a joke that I have always tell my friends, it's not really a joke. That's why I wish I can be a stand-up comedian. So it's that my guitar has been by my side for years, uh, and yet I haven't touched it yet. I
Mm,
mean, because of the work and
sure.
this kind of stuff. And then when I go back to my guitar, the strings are already rusted, and I feel uh like my it's an electric guitar. I have to set up the amplifier,
I
set up
know.
connect all the
I know.
connectors. I mean, just like how you do
It's
for
not
this
just
podcast.
like this. You pick it and you play.
Exactly. And then by the time set up everything already, I'm too tired. Okay, take off everything back.
I know because my son is into electric guitar as well. And we have a lot
Oh,
of material. Now we have mixing tables and this and that. And it's a full studio at home. So, yes, the setup time, you have to have the will to do it.
exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
as a founder, you don't have so much time anymore. So, I
Exactly.
understand. Okay.
Exactly.
So past guitarist, but stand-up comedian
Yeah.
would be your thing. Okay, very good. The stage then.
Yeah.
Stage. All right. Now, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Sorry, come again?
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Ah, mm, I would say uh, to be to be less defensive. Um, I think that's the root of it. So it's not about, oh, I wish I can be more visionary. Of course, again, if you guys can see the theme of this conversation, it's not about career. I think it's about the human aspect of it, which is the reason behind this podcast, right? It's about
Exactly so.
the personality
Yeah.
aspect, right? So I would say vulnerably, it's actually about being less defensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Mm.
Now, what do you consider your greatest achievement? And you're young, so I understand that for now, the years of achievement are limited, but still, do you
Yeah.
have any?
Yeah. Also yes.
Okay, good.
Despite being a Malaysian, which is a legit thing in the industry, despite being a Malaysian, not being a superpower country, having no background in the space industry, and also despite being just an engineer, like having an engineering background, and yet a few things. One, I managed to build a deep tech startup in the space industry, and now we are in the defense and security industry. I have to say the security aspect because sometimes defense itself,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Can be associated with
yeah,
negative, let's say,
exactly,
perception.
exactly, yeah, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
So, um, despite having no like very catchy background where you can put in the team slide in the pitch that I'm a Stanford graduate,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a SpaceX engineer.
Yes,
Whereas for
astrophysics,
yeah,
something. Yes, yes, yes.
astrophysics. Whereas for us in the team, blank.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
understand.
but of course, we start somewhere, and that's where the achievement part. Despite having that background, um, we I wanted to say I, but I would say we. We managed to get a team who have experiences getting teams from the SpaceX, from Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and also getting contract from the NASA, U.S. Department of Defense, having working with the European Space Agency, and also I would say recently, for the past few months ago, I think this is huge validation. So three things. One, being part of the Malaysian government consortium for the space industry. that's on the down to earth a bit. Uh, Above that earth a bit is that one. I think this is, I would say, it's a luck thing. So managed to get one of the, it's kind of like the Forbes version of the space industry, which is a Payload Pioneers 2024, end of last year. Managed to get that award, basically for people under the 30 years old. I'm 30 this year. So for under 30s who have impact in the space industry. So that's one. Another one is that despite being a non-EU, non-member state company, we are being part of the European Space Program. We got
Nice.
accepted it, and
Nice,
then
congrats.
yeah, thank you so much.
But you
Honestly,
have
yeah,
gone really, really far in a few years, I must say.
I
So
agree.
it's crazy, especially because you started out of a bit nowhere somehow.
Yeah,
You were not in that space.
yeah,
You were super young,
yeah.
and it's been just a few years only.
Thank you
So
so
indeed,
much.
it's
Thank
true.
you so much.
You need to check their website. We'll put it into the YouTube page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just please. It's here, Aphelia.
Aphelia, yes, correct. All right. So now, if you were to die and come back as a person or a thing, what would it be?
Myself. I'll
Yourself?
still
Yeah.
say myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I'm thinking about this question, I'm thinking
Mhm.
maybe myself as well. Not that
Mm.
it's the perfect word, but this is the word I know. So maybe it's reassuring somehow. I don't know. Or I could do better next time or something, with
Exactly.
the same device.
Exactly. Same device.
As a whole thing.
Yeah.
The body, the mind,
Yeah. It's kind of like the modern term of philosophy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a very concrete person.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too much into tech now.
Yeah.
All right. Now, where would you most like to live? Can be a type of place, can be a specific place.
A place of calmness.
Mm.
Yeah, a place of calmness. Of course, if we are being realistic, like the place itself, I would say still Malaysia.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, country-wise, I would
Yeah.
still say Malaysia. But also, like for us, having been to Luxembourg, honestly, Luxembourg is a very calm country.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I
it
can tell.
is. It is.
Very calm, very calm.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay. That gives us the standards of quiet
Yeah,
environment for you.
exactly.
Oh, good. Now, what is your most treasured possession? And doesn't mean an object specifically. Can be something more conceptual.
This is something I struggle with. Do you mind to explain a bit, like
Yeah,
treasure?
so possession can be really something you own. Like someone said to me, the bitcoins.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but it can be more conceptual. Can be some other founders said to me, the love of my family, for instance, or my relatives. So it can be very conceptual or a very material thing.
Mm, I would say relationship.
Relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Because I would say there are two things. One is to be able to have the ownership to work on my vision, like career-wise. I would say yes. It's actually both. Like to to have the to be able to still own to build the vision that I want to do, rather than having that taken away. I would say there is one, and also the relationships part, because I think uh, I genuinely believe this is not being talked enough in the startup ecosystem, not just in Malaysia but anywhere. If we look at most of super amazing, no doubt, super amazing startup founders, sometimes they succeed at the cost of relationships, especially like not just family relationship but also intimate relationships. And I genuinely believe that is not a good example. Like, of course, career is yes, but nothing is bigger than family. Like even for me as a huge football fan, I love
It's above the football love.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Happily.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of like that kind of feeling. Like
Understand.
even though I'm a die-hard fan of Manchester United,
Yeah.
but still, family is still bigger than Manchester
Understand.
United. Yeah.
All right. Relationships then.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you regard as the lowest depth of misery? The saddest situation?
This is the question that is good. It's a bit last a bit. So something happened in my personal life, which I don't think I'm comfortable to share, at
Sure.
least.
No problem at all.
But basically, the outcome of that personal life experiences is that um, life is not just short, but life is only one,
Mm-hmm.
and life can be taken away at any time. Sometimes, of course, we take it for granted. Sometimes we feel that, of course, we have medical insurance, everything's good, but sometimes we take that for granted. I mean, no judgment about that.
Yeah. No, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So
Because we, as
mm,
human beings, we don't like to think about what could go
exactly,
wrong.
exactly,
Somehow it's a safeguard mechanics as well.
exactly. That's totally on point. So yeah, that's I would say that's the outcome of that lowest point of my life.
Okay,
So that's
I
the
understand.
situation.
Okay, I
Mm.
understand. And now something very much more light.
Mm.
What is your favorite occupation
Ah, favorite occupation.
in
Mm.
general? Can be
Yeah,
yours actually, or can be something you wish you
exactly.
could be.
Ah, I wish. Mm, I'm kind of inclined to what Samuel Sinek also always say, which is optimist.
Mm-hmm.
But not just, of course, he clarifies as well, not just being an optimist like in a blinded positive way, um, but really it's about in terms of job description. Of course, it's more on strategic level
Mm-hmm.
rather than execution.
I
I mean, I'm
understand.
totally fine. We are
Yep.
in startup.
Yep.
We involve strategy and execution.
Sure.
Yeah, but I would say the dream is to be optimist, do research, um, but um, I don't want this to be taken in a different way, where people feel, I mean, at least for the audiences, where, oh, that is the position I want as well.
Mm.
But really, that position must come from one condition. Like, or trying to basically solve the world at a strategic level, at a high level, but with one condition. Before trying to solve the world, you need to solve yourself
Yeah,
first.
it's back to what you were saying before. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, what is your most marked characteristic personality trait?
My most mark.
Yeah, the one feature that anyone who knows you would say, "Oh yeah, this is Razlan. Razlan is like this."
I would say one word. Crazy.
Crazy. I would say maybe we can tell
Yeah.
when you go like the background you have and you
Yeah.
go to Space Tech and you are so young and you don't know anything about it. There is
Exactly.
element of craziness.
Yeah,
Indeed.
exactly.
It is crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Positively crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But
Nice.
also, of course, it needs to come from one condition, and that is it needs to be a grounded
Sure.
crazy.
Sure.
I
Sure.
mean, it cannot be, let's say, someone who tend to be, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. So it needs to be a crazy, but still you need to ground it in reality.
Yeah.
Make a real business case, those kind of stuff.
Yeah. I understand. A grounded crazy.
Yeah.
That's a new thing.
Yeah, a grounded crazy.
All right. So now, what do you most value in your friends?
uh, um, being vulnerable,
Mhm.
being truthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be authentic then.
Be authentic.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the word.
All right. Now, who are your favorite writers, if any?
That's the thing. There are books that I love, but I tend to don't know the writers. Which I
Same for me.
should.
Same for me. Usually, I don't know the writer. I don't remember the title, and I have just glimpses of the story. But I know I love the story in the book.
Exactly.
So that makes it very difficult actually to
Exactly.
recommend it.
Exactly.
So maybe a genre. Do you have a special genre that you
Uh,
like?
I would say is if you go to the bookstore, it's gonna be under the category of self-help, those kind of stuff.
Mm.
But really, my own terminology is actually a thought leader who, of course, not thought leader in the sense of just preaching,
Yeah.
but a thought leader who,
By example, you mean someone who
yeah,
is by example, yeah.
exactly, like lead by example, and also always have very deep conversation,
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say at least one of the key thoughts, not necessarily a leader. It's actually the idea behind that thought
Mm.
leader is actually the idea of originals,
Yep.
which is actually okay. This one I know him, so I know the name. So he's actually Adam Grant. He's
Okay. Yeah.
a organizational psychologist. I think I'm not sure which university. I forgot. In fact, I don't know. No, I don't know.
But we know he's a researcher then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he coined the term originals, where for me, originals is a new think different.
Mm.
Original is, of course, it's not just about think different, but it's actually about thinking original,
Yeah.
have our own original idea. But of course, if we go down the philosophy behind original, nothing is original. We always have think of some what we believe is an original idea, but it still is a combination of existing,
Sure.
pre-existing
Sure.
ideas.
Influenced.
Exactly.
Yeah. True. True.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, would you have any hero of fiction?
Hero of fiction.
And fiction is vast. Yeah. Myth, comics, books, movies.
Hmm. I wanted to say Iron Man,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say when you ask that, this person came out to my mind, which is I don't think I can do justice. I don't remember the name exactly, but it's actually in the Muslim world, history, the Al Fateh, something like that,
Okay.
where they want to conquer. Pardon me, so I'm not an expert in history, but basically, the reason why him is that it's like it's a prophetic story
Okay.
where a leader is a leader is destined to conquer. I think it's called Andalusia, Constantinople.
Constantinople. Yeah. Yeah.
Constantinople, and then basically everything seems like um, it's kind of like during the war. It's like in my own interpretation, there are phases in the war,
Mm-hmm.
and then towards the end, the last phases of that war, it's like there's no resources, we have less men ready, but then the greed behind that is just this craziness behind
Yeah.
that leader. It's like this is my life, I'm still going to do it, and he eventually won it. So,
Wow.
and then
Looks
that's
a bit like the startup environment, actually.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly,
Okay. I will
precisely.
dig down to know what is this story
Yeah.
and the hero you're
Yeah,
speaking
in
of.
fact, there is a Netflix documentary about it.
Okay.
Yeah, there
But
is.
it's a fictional or a
It's actually not
historical.
historical.
So you will have your answer for one of the next
Yeah.
questions. So let's skip Iron Man for this one.
Okay. Yeah.
We
Yes.
understand that
Yes.
there's another one. So it's the next question, which was the historical figure you most identify with. So
Yeah,
this is
that's
the
the one.
person. Okay,
Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah, that's the
So we
one.
need to dig down to know the name of this person.
Yeah.
All
We have
right.
to.
Now, who are your heroes in real life?
In real life, I would still say my parents. But also, let's say other than my parents, um, sadly, I would say he was, of course, Elon.
Mm-hmm.
He was a hero because I would say he was the only example in the world for everyone where someone who is not only good in business acumen, but also have a very good technical acumen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is so rare, especially during his early times. And I would say he's the one at
Yeah,
that time,
yeah.
at that period of time.
And positively crazy like you.
Exactly.
At that time, because now the positively I'm not sure anymore, but
Yeah.
at that time, I think we could agree that he had this kind of spark
Exactly.
to believe that this dream could be true.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
In
see.
fact, like in the space industry, people have been telling him, please, Elon, focus back on the space industry.
Yeah.
I mean, the Twitter stuff. I mean, it's fine, but please focus back on the space industry.
Understand.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
he has pushed the industry forward.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
All right. Now a very different question.
Mm.
What are your favorite names?
In what sense? Like what in what
Names,
sense?
names, first names. It's really a very different question in this questionnaire.
I will answer it in a different way, but I do believe it encapsulates the meaning behind that question as well. Um, like in Malaysia, the idea of people having the title, the
Yes,
Dato,
yes.
Tan Sri, those kind of
Which
stuff.
becomes a first name somehow, and
Yeah,
everyone has the same. There are hundreds of datos, yeah.
exactly, exactly. And I would say, I mean, that's the question from my friends and my family as well. If you get Dato sheep, those kind of stuff, please just accept it. And for me personally, I don't want that because it's like whenever we address people who have the Dato Tan Sri, we don't call their real name.
Yeah, true.
And for me, that is a huge loss, especially
True.
like um, I am Razlan, and that name is given by my parents.
Yeah.
And I cherish that.
Yeah.
Hence,
Totally true.
yeah.
I see what you're saying because the way I see that we don't have such titles in France, and though I would love to be a French Datine,
Yeah.
no, that could be exotic,
Yeah,
to have that somewhere. But I feel like, to your point, then you're not who you are anymore if we just reduce you to that, to a function somehow.
exactly. Exactly. So it's
Yeah, it's
kind of like
interesting.
we are stripping away that Razlan away
Yeah,
from Razlan,
yeah,
and we are stripping that Vanessa away from
yeah. True,
Vanessa.
true, true. Yeah, yeah. I feel
Yeah.
so. It's yep. I can't say no more. But
Yeah.
all right. What is it that you most dislike now?
What is what?
What is it that you most dislike?
Ah, what I most dislike. Hmm. Mm, it was kind of recent. I mean, in a fun way, I went to Luxembourg, and the foods are so cold. Yeah.
True, true.
I mean, I only realized that when I was in an airport, and coincidentally, I met Malaysians, and long story short, it was a company trip of a Malaysian company. So I had a pleasant conversation with them, largely because our flight was delayed 2 hours. But the main thing is that during that conversation, and I told them, hey, I mean, they went to Milano. So I told them, hey, do you guys realize the food here in Europe are so cold? Unlike in Malaysia, like example for the croissant,
Yeah.
like everything is so cold. Of course, there's meat, cheese inside. So it's like the the assumption like in Malaysia is that okay, maybe they put it in microwave oven,
Yes.
but when we order it, and just serve
Yeah,
it
yeah,
right
yeah.
away.
Yeah. It's an interesting
Yeah.
thing. I've never thought about it, but yes, true. That's true that most of your food is it's hot food. Actually, needs
Exactly.
preparation, needs to be served right away.
Exactly. Right.
Oh, that's a revelation here.
Yeah. I
A
mean, in
big
a
gap
fun
between
way.
the
Yeah.
cultures. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so cold food is what he doesn't like.
Yeah.
Cold food. All right. So here a more deep question, and you might be too young to have that, but what is your greatest regret, if any?
This is one of the questions that I kept asking myself, largely not because I'm trying to know the answer, but rather I feel like that question is not relevant to me. I mean, as of now, that's the way I
Yeah.
see it. Because I tend to be, I accept how things are. I don't necessarily regret things.
That's good.
Yeah, which is kind of good
That's
as
yeah, a
well.
good personality, I must say.
Yeah.
Okay, we are close to the end of this questionnaire of 35 questions, and this one is pretty deep. How would you like to die?
Yeah, that is. Thank you so much for the question. For me, it's not about the narrative of when I die, I don't have any regrets. For me, this answer is also the answer to the question of what is success. For me, it is when I die, I end up in a good place. Of course, like in our religion, is to end up in the heaven. So I would say that's the thing. So it's not about I wish when I die, specifically, let's say, I have a legacy to the world. For me, it's not that. For me, um, I wish the way I die, and also to the question of what is success, is when I die, I end up in a good place
Yeah.
because by having that as a ground,
Yeah.
then it's like, at least religiously speaking, then we know whatever we do is that there is sense of like there is a justice system that is um, that is just very just, and there is no, let's say, there's no corruption in that kind of justiceness towards going to hell or heaven, and that's kind of like the ground.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's say, as opposed to thinking that, oh, I want to do good, but by doing bad things.
Yeah. I understand.
So that's where I'm
I
coming
understand.
from. Yeah.
And the final end will say to you how to live your life somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe it's linked to the latest question, which is, what is your motto
So, motto.
or approach to life, I would say?
Okay. Mm, Two things. One, I love Ray Dalio, the founder and I think co-CEO of Bridgewater Associates, the hedge fund thing. He coined the important term of principles, where, so I would say it's not like a motto thing, but so two things. One is having that having principles in the structure of pain plus reflection equals progress, and then we reflect on that, and then we create a principle out of it. Hence, actually, in my Instagram, I have a collection of principles, and I don't do it like on a monthly basis. I have a new principle because it would feel like I'm manufacturing principles out of nothing. It needs to be genuine and authentic, right?
Yeah.
So feel free to follow my Instagram.
You will share it in a moment. Yeah.
So, but the most important, I would say, the biggest motto or principle is always searching for the truth. Yeah, of
That's
course.
brilliant.
Yeah. So because and to clarify, I have some friends who say, "Oh, searching for the truth is kind of like sounds like very religious. Like, oh, let's search for God." To be really precise, what I mean by searching for the truth is like investigative journalist, like a journalist who see a situation and then trying to search for the truth. What is happening here?
Understand.
In that sense, like trying to search for the truth. Because especially, I think this really applies, especially to startup founders, where we are doing new things that have no references out there. If there's no references out there, then what is our guide? How do we know if this is right or wrong? What we want to do? And therefore, it is our job to find what is the truth, and that comes with questioning ourselves, questioning what is the general norm out there, and
I understand. Yeah, it's more like questioning.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I understand. All good. All right, so we have achieved the 35 original questions of the Proust questionnaire. How do you feel?
Honestly, I loved it. I really loved it.
It's nice, huh?
And we really need this kind of conversation in the startup ecosystem, because it's not just about tech, it's not just about business, but there's always the underlying philosophy behind that forms every startup founder's belief, which eventually forms their decision making and how do they do their startup.
That's exactly the point of this podcast.
Yeah.
Behind the startup is a person, a living individual.
This episode is also sponsored by Hippies, and I want to thank you for supporting this show. Hippies is the go-to talent partner for scaling up startups in Malaysia and across Southeast Asia. Whether you're building your first tech team or recruiting that game-changing head of growth, Hippies gets it done. They're not your typical recruiters. They are builders themselves, backed by real industry experience and a strong regional presence in Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. Hippies Tribe is fast, sharp, and human. They don't just fill roles. They help you build momentum. And if you're a candidate listening, trust me, they will help you find a role that feels right, not just one that looks good on paper. This is what I really value in Hippies. They come from the field, from the real startup ecosystem. They too know what building a startup or working in that fast-paced and demanding environment means. Like they say, Hippies is for the bold, by the bold. So check them out on hippies.com or drop them a DM on LinkedIn.
All right, so now we are going into your company, and I would like you to do a 1-minute elevator pitch of Aphelia, a real 1 minute, and you know how to pitch.
Yeah, exactly. So for Aphelia, we are in the industry of space and also defense and security. We are based in Malaysia and also will be working. We are working really hard to be based in Luxembourg. What we do exactly is we are developing wireless power technology, like a long range wireless power technology for the moon application as our moonshot. As part of our near-term and medium-term strategy, we have Earth business, which is largely the defense and security. For that part, we not only do wireless power for drone defense and security, like wireless charge a drones and for drones and security defense and security drones, but also we have some other products which include radar, a radar that can not only detect the targets, but a radar that can also do jamming, and also this is a bit dark, that can also not only do jamming, but also can do disruption with the radio frequency, high energy, and then disable that drone for defense.
Okay. Okay,
Not
so that
for
is new.
offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper here, and I will ask you 4 questions about Aphelia, but my way, which is brand way, yeah,
love
branding way. So the first one is, why are you on Earth? Speaking of, for what are you on Earth for? Sorry, as an organization. So what is your deep why here?
Yeah. The whole purpose of why Aphelia exists is all about expanding our humanity's activities on the moon, Mars, and beyond for the benefit of Earth. To be really specific, when it comes to resources on Earth, resources are so limited, but resources in the space, like on the moon, on the asteroid, are so vast. And where Aphelia fits into that picture is we aim to build the energy infrastructure so that we can deliver power. We can power all the space missions to mine, let's say, the helium-3 on the moon, for the nuclear industry on Earth to solve energy sustainability, and also, let's say, to mine lithium and copper, where on Earth is so limited and it is destroying Earth. So that is the why. So it's not just about let's colonize Mars, let's send humans to Mars, but really it's about energizing the activities for the benefit of Earth.
I understand.
Yeah.
Nice one. So what people do you resonate with, or do you want?
So this is kind of like a interview session for upcoming talents to join us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, it's the questions I ask to my clients. This is the basis that we are working on, because you were speaking about direction. It's exactly that. It's the direction that you're going. When you know that, then it's easy to make decisions, or it's easier to make decisions. So hence that question. Yeah.
Precisely. I love that. I love that.
Good.
So, sorry, come again. What's the question again?
What people do you want to resonate with? So which target audience, basically, for Aphelia?
Resonate with. I would say people who courageously ambitious, but of course not in a blinded way. Like people who dare to do something ambitious, and yet they are doing something about that. The right term I would say is a proof of extraordinary. So people who have the proof of extraordinary, because these are the kind of people who push the boundaries. I mean, not just technology, not just startup, but also, let's say, in the face of injusticeness, in a humanitarian kind of context. These kind of people, they know their stuff, especially when it comes to pushing boundaries where there's no references out there. Yeah, these are the people who search for the truth in order to achieve whatever the ambition that they have. So this, yeah, these
A
are
bit
the
of an
people.
explorer mindset here.
Exactly.
Nice. So how different are you from your competitors?
how different are we from the competitors? I would say this is kind of cliche. This is, if you go to workshop, this has been one of the most important in startup workshop. People have been keep to tell aspiring startup founders, which is we focus on customers. That is
Sure.
like a bit as s- space industry is the same as well. Sometimes we tend to be like, oh, this is a technology. This is gonna be game changing. Have you talked to customer? You
Yeah,
haven't
because
talked.
it's like a bit of a dreaming space somehow. You're
Exactly.
obliged to have that kind of dimension
Exactly.
that users don't get yet because you're a bit ahead of time.
Exactly.
I understand.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's why
So you put the customer still
yeah.
in the center.
Yeah. And I would say there are two. One is talking to the customer, and also in terms of our company mode, is that we actually design our own semiconductor chip, which is kind of like the root to why there is a company technical mode for us as a company. And one of the reasons why we can be part of the European program. So we design our own chip, and also the fact that business-wise, although we have a moonshot, which is important for the European program, Swiss program, but we also have a tangible business case for the near-term strategy, which is important to finance ourselves towards that moonshot.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I saw the on Earth and then the moonshot.
Yeah.
How you work now on what you can work tangibly
Yeah.
to sustain
Yeah.
the big dream that is a bit further away.
Precisely, which is super rare for space startups generally.
I understand. There would be more already there,
Yeah.
and more the research is now,
Yeah.
basically.
Exactly.
Understand. Very good. And now latest question is, what do you promise to those people that you resonate with? Those ambitious, bit explorer people?
What I will promise is I'm someone who keep growing myself. There are shortcomings. Uh, I have blind spots as well. What I can promise to the people who work with me is I always grow myself. Of course, my teammates have been always like have to bear with me. I have my weaknesses as well. I'm a human after all. So what I will promise is I keep growing myself. Yeah.
And Aphelia, as an organization, what is this promise that you're making to your customers?
And for Aphelia, I would say the whole reason why the fact that we say our competitive advantage is on the customer, that is a trust that we are giving to the customer. We focus on you guys rather than we are flushing out solution to you guys. So that is the main thing. And the wisdom behind that is that what we promised is that, let's say the trend of the industry is where we need to be cost effective, we need to be cheap, which is of course not good for us as a startup where the contract value will be smaller, but that's where we still listen to you guys.
Right.
That's the main thing. Yeah.
Good. All right. Now, would you like to share some hot news about Aphelia? It's your time.
Yeah. So for Aphelia, for the past, actually since January, we have been so heavily focused on two aspects. One, we are actually, by the time this video is aired, maybe we have already signed our defense contract with the Malaysian government.
Good luck.
Which is like,
all the best.
Thank you so much. So it's a huge life changing for me personally and also for the company.
Sure.
It's a defense and security contract. On the other hand, it's that we are heavily focusing on the Luxembourg aspect. So for the Luxembourg, we are working with the EU stakeholders. That's where Aphelia is heading. Yeah.
So watch that space because obviously there will be more in the next few weeks, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And so where can we watch you online? You, Razlan, and Aphelia.
Yeah.
Where can we find you? And you mentioned Instagram.
Yeah. So do follow my Instagram and also my LinkedIn.
So what is your Instagram account?
My Instagram account can just search my name,
Okay.
Razlan Dhamir Hamdan.
Okay.
Sometimes just Razlan Hamdan and then my name
It will
already
pop
pops
up.
up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Aphelia?
And also Aphelia, yes. Instagram not really that active.
Sure.
But at least on LinkedIn, yes.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn is kind of like the formal-ish, whereas my Instagram is kind of like that's where my personality is. Sometimes I do reflect on things.
Okay.
So that's where my
All right.
Instagram is.
Okay, so we will put all the links in the YouTube channel so that you can follow both Aphelia and Razlan.
Yeah.
That's a wrap. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Razlan.
Thank
That was really nice
you.
to listen to you and to discover that very philosophical
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
Thank
Merci.
you.
Merci beaucoup.
Yes.
Okay. Bye bye.